I think what the weird vibe that I would say I got is that everyone acted maybe differently than I expected them to behave. It wasn't, the people that you thought would be like over the moon and there, weren't, and the people that you didn't expect to were.
Welcome to the 20th episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives. I'm Freddie.
And I'm Tiffany.
In today's episode, we're going to go through the whirlwind that we've been experiencing over the past 10, 11 months, something like that, in planning a wedding, all the frustrations and the chaos, as well as the triumphs and the enjoyment of the whole process.
Yeah.
I say enjoyment in air quotes.
No, it's been fun.
Yes, it has. But before we get started, Tiffany is going to handle some business.
Okay, you know what I'm going to say. We are on YouTube and we're on video on YouTube. That's why you're watching us right now. And please continue to view and share and hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff, as well as on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Audible, all of those different places you can find us. Please keep sharing and just share it with people, right? Just say, hey, check out this couple. Let people go in and look at the episodes that they want to look in. But the more you spread it, the better for us. We can spread what we're trying to do here. And we just really appreciate your support.
Yeah, I noticed on Spotify that the viewer counts have gone down a little bit since we went to video. Just to let you know, you don't have to watch it on Spotify. You can still listen to it if you'd like. So that's always an option.
Right.
And so we're going to get started into this 20th podcast. And so before we get started, I do want to thank Jerry again over at Strong House Fitness for letting us use this gym with this beautiful artwork and everything. So we really appreciate using the venue, because in our dining room, it gets a little cramped.
A little bit cramped.
Yeah. But back to the subject, we wanted to kind of start off with, how we got engaged and all of that fun stuff. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes. So to go back to that night, and I feel like, I'm not sure if we talked about this already, but that night I had asked Freddie to want to go out to dinner to this new pop-up that my friend had suggested. My friend Laura, she suggested this pop-up, it was around the holiday times. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Everything looked really cute. The drinks were all, they had a theme for holidays and like little gingerbread cookies and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So we got there a little bit early because Freddie, he has to do things early. So we got there a little bit early and we were sitting in the bar area waiting for the pop-up place to open up. So anyway, we get in there, we're sitting at a high top table. We're in there maybe 20, 30 minutes or whatever. And we're drinking our first little cutesy drink. And
I don't drink cutesy drinks, by the way. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. I want to make that correction. I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Whatever. All right.
It must have been bourbon.
It must have been. Okay. So suddenly a guy appears to my right and Freddie knows him and he's like saying hello. He said the guy's name. This is Chris or whatever his name was, right? Was it Chris?
No, it was Jesse. And that was during, so you got it mixed up here. That was during wedding that was during dinner that he actually showed up and I was talking to him. When we were waiting for the restaurant to open up, he walked.
Well, I couldn't tell that part.
He walked past me. I didn't even say anything to him when he went past.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that part because I didn't experience that, right? Like you did. So anyway, so he, Jesse, he was like, "This is Jesse," and I looked to the side, and Jesse has a camera, and I thought, first of all, oh, that's cool. This place has, photographers here because it was like that ice skating rink, and there was a lot going on, right, to make it magical. And then I'm also thinking, how does Freddie know who this person is? So I'm looking over at that person, saying hello, and at the same time, Freddie's getting down on his knee, and then the table behind him is like, oh, you know, and I'm just like looking at everyone and everything, and I'm all mixed up. Like, I don't even know which hand to push out. Like, I was so nervous. Like, what's happening? I totally did not expect that at all.
It was funny.
But it's really cool. You had a photographer, and we took some, you know, engagement photos, right? In that moment, I know a lot of people do their engagement photos later and they're fancy and they're somewhere else, but we did it right there in that moment. And we walked a little bit into a different section and took some photos, but it was just that moment with so many things going on at once. I was just like, what is happening? I just couldn't believe that that was happening to me.
And so that was what was going on in your head.
Mhm.
But what was going on in my head was, now that I've gone down on one knee, you know, I've had hip replacement and everything, how am I going to get back up?
Yeah.
Am I just going to be stuck down here? And it was tough
Yeah.
to get back up.
I helped you back up.
I was determined.
Yes.
Though. I said, you know what? I'm getting down on the one knee.
Yes.
They have to live there, but I'm gonna get down on one knee.
So that was really special. That was December 10th of last year. And shortly after, a couple of months later, in February, my mom she went into the hospital for one thing, and while she was there, they found out that she needed double bypass surgery. And 1 month after that, Freddie had a hip replacement. So both of them were needing care.
Yes.
Luckily, I believe we found that the place we're getting married in January. We had gone to a few places, even in December. In January, we found a venue. We had only gone to like maybe 3 different spots. We found this venue, and it's one of those all-inclusive venues, so we went for it. And I'm so glad we did, because those things that happened the following months, it got really crazy. I wasn't able to do a lot of planning. I was running back and forth to either the hospital or to the rehabilitation center my mom was at, or at home with Freddie. And I left work for 3 months.
Yes.
You know, it started out to be caring for my mom, and it ended with me caring for myself, because it was a very stressful time. It was really hard.
Yeah, and I had 2 hip replacements.
That's right.
Because the hip that I had replaced got infected. And because it was so badly infected, they couldn't just swap it out. They had to put in a temporary and have me go through, what was it, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
A 6-week course of very aggressive antibiotics. And then they put in, you know, so I basically had 3 hip replacements in, you know, a little over a year. And yeah, that was pretty tough. And you took care of me during that, as well as running back and forth to take care of your mother, you know, so that was an extreme amount.
It really was. And I didn't do that much here and there. I did a few things, like I would order something and have it delivered, things that I thought I wanted, which actually was a mistake, because I ended up ordering a couple of things double, or what I ordered initially didn't really go with the theme. I mean, I thought I was getting ahead of the game and like late night ordering when I couldn't sleep. And really, I probably shouldn't have done that. So I probably wasted a few $100s on just some knick-knacky things.
Yeah.
I didn't work. But once everyone was okay, which probably was about June, July-ish, then it was like, okay, now you gotta jump on this train to start planning for this wedding. There were moments where I wanted to, well, originally when we first got engaged, I wanted to wait till 2025. And everyone's like, no, don't wait so long. You know, Freddie, you don't want to do that. And all my friends were like, no, it's got to be this year. So I was like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and do that. That was before all of that came raining down on us. But I went with it. And then with Freddie having been married twice before, he got married in a courthouse both times.
Yeah.
And
instead of peace,
if it had been up to Freddie, he would have probably done that again this time. But for me, my first and hopefully last wedding.
Yeah.
Well, no, for sure it's gonna be last. I don't care what happens. But but I was like, between me and my mom, we wanted a wedding. You know. And so when I started like talking about it and pricing things out, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be crazy. I can't do this. This is too much money. I'm not willing to spend all this money.
Yeah.
And then my mom is like, I'll pay for it. You know, and that still to this day makes me a little uncomfortable, because it is a lot of money and I feel bad. But this is what she wants to do. And it's actually allowing me to have very close to the type of wedding I would have if money was not an issue. although it's way more expensive even still than I ever thought it would be,
Yeah.
because there's so many things you have to think about. But I'm grateful that my mom offered that. And so we were able to plan accordingly with those
Yeah.
things. you know?
And it was I gotta go back to where you said that I wanted to do Justice of the Peace again, which I did. I have to admit to that. But as we started the actual planning for the wedding, and as everyone knows, I'm from the East Coast, and most of my family, just about all my family, is on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
It was an opportunity for everyone to come together. I started getting really excited to get some family and
Right.
friends
Mhm.
out to Los Angeles, and so I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah. So I think your family is really excited too, because I don't think they had a chance to be a part of the first two.
No, and my sisters told me about that.
Yeah.
Both of them.
They should. So, but now we're gonna have this very special wedding. At first I was just really, for lack of a better word, about everything I wanted and how I wanted to happen and what I wanted every single thing to look like. But along the way, I've had to let certain things go
Hmm.
to keep my sanity.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm working at the same time.
Hmm.
And anyone who has any idea of what being inside this classroom is like, it's a lot of work. It's very time if you want to do it a certain way. And I have a certain way I like to, certain type of teacher I like to be. So it takes out a lot of me,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always just end at the end of the school day. So just trying to do all of that at the same time has been pretty challenging, but it's coming together the closer we get.
Hmm.
We had a lot of little hiccups along the way.
Yes.
You know, the venue has been pretty good. I feel like we had a good experience meeting with them, sitting down with them. And even though a lot of things are included, there are some things that I've wanted differently because it just, their options weren't enough for me.
And I'm sitting there like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go.
The elite top package,
Yes.
there still were some things. The elite package is not the same as the luxury package.
Right.
So, and while I cannot do all things luxury, there were certain things I was like, I gotta have, right? When I have a vision, I gotta see it through.
Yeah.
So it did become more expensive than maybe it needed to be, because it was like, okay, we want our own DJ and we want, let's go to the invites,
Yes.
right? They give us a certain amount of money, something like 500 something plus dollars towards the invites. And there's a good amount of invites to choose from.
Yes.
But of course, I don't like any of them.
Yes, of
right?
course. Yes, of course.
When you're allowed to take certain things off of the inclusive and they give you some money back, but it's not like they give you the full money back. So if they're giving you $575 credit towards buying invites and you take that off, instead you might get back $2 per person. It doesn't, It's not the same. So we ended up finding another place and going through hundreds of invites, but we did find the invite we finally liked. And I brought Freddie into the mix of that. And that helped too, because I could go on and on until I feel it's 100% right in my heart.
Yes.
I will go on and on.
And you do. You do.
Where Freddie's more like, yep, that's good. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's like, it's good enough.
Yes. But I would never agree to that if I didn't at least somewhat really like it. And so we finally came to an agreement on some invitations that didn't cost nearly as much as what the place was offering. But it still cost us more because we weren't going with theirs. But that's okay.
But one of the things I wanted to bring up real quick, and for people who've gone through this process before, they realize is that when you're planning a wedding, the earth keeps turning.
Yeah.
Life keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Troubles still happen.
Right.
The world doesn't care. So in terms of, all of that time you had to stop and leave work, and then when you went back to work trying to pick back up, and it wasn't like when you went back to work everything was over on the home front,
right?
There were still things that we were dealing with, and so talk a bit about that.
Right. When I went back to work, which was May 1st, first of all, May for teachers is like the beginning of the year. It's like August, but because we're trying to do the assessments, we're trying to do conferences. If there's anything left that we have to do, we have to pack up the room. And, there's activities going on in that time of the school year, assessments. It was just super busy. Plus, I hadn't been there for 3 months. So I also needed to reel the kids back into how I like to run my room. And at the same time, my mom was staying with us. We had the hospital bed set up in the living room. We put up a curtain to kind of give her some privacy in the living room from the rest of the place. So that was still going on every morning, making sure my mom had what she needed. And then, Freddie would help out during the day while I was gone. And, so all of that was still happening. Right. And then we still have, a dog and a son to take care of. So it was quite a bit. And you weren't all out the woods.
No, I wasn't, because I had gone through the first hip replacement. Then there was the 6 weeks of every 8 hours doing a 2-hour course of antibiotics, which was that was horrible.
Right.
Because I got no sleep, and so just going through that while working and everything, and then what was it? I think it was another 3 or 4 weeks after that, maybe a month after that, that I actually had the third surgery.
Exactly. Because I was going to teach summer school for the first time of my life to try to make up some of the money and things that I could done. And your surgery ended up being scheduled on the first day of summer school. So that was that, which I'm glad. Summer school is, I need that whole summer break to recoup, especially after everything that gone on. But so then we had to kind of start the process all over again. Luckily, it was quick. It was a really good, successful surgery, and Freddie healed pretty quickly from that. And just trying to manage all the things that were going on, because I'm getting phone calls from my mom and her doctors, and also having to deal with the rehabilitation center. If you've ever had to put a parent in a facility, they do not always do what they're supposed to do. You have to stay on top of them about everything. So there was a lot of those phone calls. And then sometimes Freddie's medical people will call me. And then I also have my own stuff. So it was a lot. It was just a lot going on.
It was a lot. And then during the summer, Joseph goes to Europe for 16 days.
Right.
And all the fun stuff with that, getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't find my passport, and I need more money. And
it's just very interesting. I mean, we're glad that he went.
Absolutely.
And then my mom also decided to go back home a couple of days a week here and there in June. And so that was the first time that you and I had been alone in the home since, I don't know, it had been good 6-7 months that we had any time, to ourselves. So that was nice.
Yeah, it was.
That we got back to that. But
then we were getting phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. I need more money.
Exactly. And all the little stories that were happening over there. But it turned out to be a good experience.
Yes, it did.
In the moment, it's like a lot, just like it felt like another thing, right? So then we get more into the wedding planning, and there were certain areas that I was kind of just stuck in, and mainly it was someone to do my makeup and someone to do my hair. I was very stuck in that. And I had friends sending me tons of, people to reach out to, and it was overwhelming. I got to reach out to people and they may not respond, or they may take a week to respond. It's really a difficult, challenging thing. And plus finding someone that did makeup in the way that I like my makeup. I'm really picky about
everything.
You know what? It's not, okay, I used the wrong word, picky. I know what I want, okay?
Yes, you do.
And often what I want is not the standard thing.
Yes,
right? So,
it is.
And so that was a bit challenging, But before I go back into that, then, we were talking about the invites, right? We started out wanting, I wanted a micro wedding. Like, if everyone heard that, it was like 20 to 50 people.
Everybody starts off as a micro wedding, and then they alone.
Yes. People keep it a micro wedding. But when you do that, you are hurting a lot of feelings. But even if we just wanted our family there, Freddie would have had the majority of the people, and I would have had like 3 people. You know what I mean? Because my family is really small.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute, my friends are like my family. So I
Yeah.
need to, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then you start thinking of this person and that person who made a huge impact in your life, even if it was at some time in the past, you haven't talked to them very much. You know, you keep going on, and then you're meeting new friends and building that, and you're like, I can't invite everybody. This is really pricey. It's a challenge, you know. And then you have people asking for a +1 or a +3 or 4 or 5, you know. So it gets pretty sticky, and I get it. Like if we had all the money, if it was that wasn't an issue, we would probably invite at least another 20, 30 people. But
I wouldn't have, but but because I know, like when I was making phone calls to people and saying, hey, I'm getting married, all this kind of stuff, and people would say, because people I'm calling is on the East Coast,
right.
and they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't make that, and I'm like, oh, too bad, okay, good, so it was like, I was kind of sad because I did want to see him, but I was kind of like,
Yeah.
fewer people, So,
But fewer people turned from us wanting 20 to 50 to, I think we're at 105.
what was our first official count?
93.
But didn't we have a smaller count before that at one
May have
time?
been in the 80s. We were in the 80s at one point.
Yeah.
Then it became 93 is what we first took
Okay.
the venue.
Yes.
And then
That's true.
it jumped, it kept jumping up. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would love to have everyone there, probably needed a different venue. I know this venue holds more people, but I also want the dance floor that we're not cramped on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a challenge. Like you think you know exactly what you're going to do. And some people do, right? Like I know one person who said they only had, when I say immediate family, that meant their kids.
Yes.
And like their siblings, didn't even invite grandparents. Like they left out a lot of people, and were okay with. I think they had like 15 people or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's what they wanted. They wanted very intimate and very, and I get that too, because that does have a different feel when it's very small and very intimate. But there's people there, it's like, I gotta have so and so's gotta be there. And we didn't do the bridesmaids grooms thing. I honestly believe that saved me some extra stress. It was really trying to organize so many different people, especially later on in life, as an older couple getting married in our 50s, people are less likely to just really, what's the word? Put themselves out there.
Yeah.
Because it can be a lot trying to do that, right? And if you take on the bride, the maid of honor or whatever, it could be a lot of work. And so I was like, I'm not gonna put myself or my friend, just put that strain on anybody.
Yeah.
So we didn't do any of that.
I didn't want to go through that either, with the groomsmen and all that kind of stuff. I just, because then you got to pick and choose, and then you got, okay, I want you to go to the wedding, but I don't want you to be a groomsman. I just forget all that.
Right.
We don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the better choices that we made along the way. But I still wanted people to be tied to us. So I did do, a color code, so to speak. Right. So like, which people often do, they might say it's black and white or all white, which I always dreamed of an all white wedding, everyone wearing white. And I don't even know how I got away from that. But I decided I wanted it to be certain shades of purple, eliminating a few colors. Yeah. And I could not believe how that turned into a real challenge for a lot of people. This is how I envisioned it, was just, here's a chart with probably 30 different shades of purple.
Yes.
Interpret that how you want, right? And then, but people were like, do I have to wear all purple? Do I wear a shirt? Can I wear, what about this shade? What about this? And I was like, oh no, I didn't mean to stress people out or myself. You know what I mean?
And especially since no one read the website.
Right, exactly. We put together this website that one of my friends did read, and she's like, you actually over-explained. She's like, you answered questions I didn't even know I had, So, I was glad I did that, but a lot of people didn't look at it or haven't looked at it yet. And then they would ask us questions that were on the website. So, but once they looked at it, I think a lot of that was answered. And then you have some people who are not purple people, which I just don't understand.
I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't. But you missed a little piece of the chronology here
what?
because we did have an engagement party,
Yes.
and that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
We had a lot of people show up,
We did.
and that was enjoyable. And that was actually around the time when I found out that I had an infection in my hip. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
In January, right?
yes.
We had the engagement party in January, and that was fun. That was good. It was cool to see people just kind of came in and out
Yeah.
of a time period in the day, and that was really nice. And
Yeah.
we also we did our save the date with an sort of an RSVP, like
Yeah.
save the date. Do you think you're gonna come? And I feel like that helped me. At least it helped my anxiety, like getting an idea of like how many people were gonna make it,
Yes.
who was going to make it, who wasn't. And that was really helpful. I feel
Yeah.
like that was really helpful in the planning of everything.
Yeah. And I want to bounce a little bit off of that
Mm-hmm.
onto something that's a little bit tangential but different, is that because for me this is my third marriage. Of course, when I was telling people that I was going to get married, I got the eye roll. Like, really? Again, especially from one family member who shall remain nameless. But but yeah, and you know what? I didn't get upset at any of them because that's a legitimate reason for an eye roll. It really is. And so I had to ask myself, wow, I am getting married a third time. What's different? And for me, I have to feel like I'm different, because if for someone who gets married, more than twice, at some point you have to look at yourself. And for me, at each point, I looked at myself. And so I had to say, okay, am I different enough? Have I made the changes that need to be made so that I don't fall into the same problems and issues that I did before?
Right.
And so I really, really had to work on myself to be able to say that I'm a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not the same person who was married the two previous times.
Right.
And in fact, even after the first marriage, I did a lot of changing. And so that was one of the things that I had to deal with, because the criticism was legitimate. It really is. And so, I had to go down and just make sure that I'm not just doing this a third time,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm doing this for a first time as a different person.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Right. Outlet 100%.
And so what about for you, being your first marriage? Did you get any kind of weird vibes from people when you told them?
I think I've had the weird vibes from people as a person who hasn't gotten married all this time or had kids. So I had already heard those voices in my mind. I think what the weird vibe that I would say I got is that everyone acted maybe differently than I expected them to behave. It wasn't the people that you thought would be like over the moon and there, weren't, and the people that you didn't expect to were, type of a thing. And then that's what makes them, yeah, it's a little bit, I think that death and weddings and just big life changes bring out different things in people at different times, and especially when it's just like, again, I'm saying when people are older, everyone's going through something. I mean, everyone's always going through something, and that's understandable. And I understand that everyone has their reasons for showing up the way that they do. But as the person, like, two things can be true at the same time, right? Like, people have things going on, but it's still how it feels as the person who's receiving it. It's a little bit tough. I felt a little lonely in this journey to getting married. And then, some people kicked in sort of, towards the end. I mean, there was people always happy and cheering for me in the beginning, but it just wasn't what you envision, or I should say, it isn't what they show you on television, for sure. Like, I'm in this group of brides and wives group on Facebook, and that's where you kind of get the real stories, And so I think that's really helpful for people. I think, you know, even before you get married, to kind of get an idea of what, you know, people have historically gone through. It's not this thing like you see on television.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it can be for some people, but it wasn't necessarily for me. And I felt kind of sad, like some of it. Plus, there was other things going on. There's a combination of things that were happening.
So how did you deal with the disappointment of some people not being as excited as you expected? And then how did you deal with the surprise that other people were really cheering you on?
How did I deal with the people who weren't? I probably expressed it to some people, maybe not directly to the people who were doing it, but to a couple of friends who I felt that I could. And just to myself, I had to just, you know, I just try my best not to take it personally, because I feel like I've been there for everyone, but I also know I have an issue of like overdoing things. And then there was a big gap between when I was there for them, because a lot of them had their big life stuff a lot sooner. And it's just a huge gap. And I just had to take it. I mean, what else can I do? You know what I mean? It was difficult to be in the time, but now that I'm on this side of it and we're so close, and the people who did kick in, I mean, all I hear is just celebrate who celebrates you, you know, be excited with the people who are excited with you. That's the best. I mean, and that's in every aspect of what I can say, you know what I mean?
What's important to say also is that what I saw with your friends that did kicked in, they kicked in huge.
Yeah.
They really did.
They did. They did. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful. You know, I have, all of my friends are great friends, even the ones who weren't able to do, you know, to do the things that maybe we would have done if we're all in our 20s. I have great friends. They're like sisters for sure, you know, so I appreciate that so many people wrapped their arms around me and just had the bridal shower yesterday. It was just really nice. Everything about it. It just really was beautiful. And my coworkers also did a bridal shower for me too. And that was just really special. So I'm not used to being the center that way. And I'm almost uncomfortable. But yesterday I felt super comfortable in that space, you know. Just the things that people were saying, it was great. And how none of them were necessarily friends with each other, but they're becoming friends with each other very easily because of the type of people that they are and the type of people in that group. And someone made a comment about that, and that just made me feel really good, and that these people are going to be at the wedding. And so I'm excited about that, and I know that we're gonna have fun. We had fun yesterday. It's gonna be even more fun at the wedding. So I just, that is what I can hold on to. I think that's what I've learned in the last, you know, year or almost year in this planning of this situation, is to just try to find those glimmers, right? Which I tried to find those in other ways, because I tend to be a person who looks at the downside of things and I worry about stuff and anxiety. And so trying to find those glimmers in things really, really helps.